Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Professor's Kitchen. Today we are going to be continuing our celebration of Black History Month by celebrating the contributions of Afro-Mexicans to the Black Diaspora. So in honor of those Afro-Mexicans and the fantastic food contributions that they've made to the Black Diaspora, I'm going to prepare a special meal that we typically eat in our house for breakfast or breakfast dinner. In our case, typically breakfast dinner. But it consists of fresh homemade salsa, which I will prepare first so that the seasonings have a chance to kind of sit there and marinate in on one another. And then I will prepare some guacamole, which is typically my husband's dish to prepare in the kitchen. He's very good at making guacamole, but I'm going to try my hand at his recipe for guacamole tonight. And then I'll also be making some huevos con chorizo, or eggs and chorizo, which I will combine together with some traditional Mexican cheese, cotija cheese, into a burrito. So basically making a breakfast burrito out of the chorizo and egg mixture, as well as the fresh salsa, the cotija cheese, and the guacamole. So I hope you enjoy this particular video. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different because sometimes when it comes to meals like this, you just learn how to do things in the kitchen by watching and observing, and not necessarily by the recipe, by following any specific recipe. So normally I would have a link in the description box for a specific recipe that I use to prepare the meal or a part of the meal. But in this case, all three of these things are something that I learned to make by observing other people in the kitchen, and that is a big part of life lessons and learning and sharing culture with one another and incorporating things from other cultures into your own routines and not being afraid to welcome those things into your kitchen, your home, and those people into your kitchen and your home, which my kitchen tends to be kind of a private, sacred space. It's a bit of my sanctuary where I can escape, and I'm usually the only one in the kitchen preparing these meals by myself. Of course, the kids pop in, my husband pops in from time to time, and I love that about the fact that I'm in an open space and I'm close to my family. But at the same time, it is, again, sort of my sanctuary. I can turn on my music and zone out or listen to an audiobook or something like that and just kind of have a chance to remember who taught me this recipe, when I learned it, why I learned it, and why I love it so much. So the salsa recipe I learned from a friend of mine here in Germany. She is actually originally from Texas, and of course in Texas they make salsa, and they love salsa, and they love spicy salsa. And I love spicy food too, probably not as much as she does, but I love spicy foods, and I was honored that she felt comfortable enough to teach me this particular recipe for making salsa. And now I never buy jar salsa ever. It's something that has just become a routine. I typically make enough to last for a while so that I don't have to purchase salsa, but it just doesn't even taste the same anymore. I don't buy salsa any other way. I don't purchase it at all. I purchase the ingredients and I make it myself. And with the guacamole, again, that was something that I learned from my husband in the kitchen. It was a recipe that I think at some point he looked up the recipe because he wanted to contribute to dinner, and I loved that he wanted to contribute something to dinner, and from the very first time that he made it, it was delicious. And so that, again, has become a staple in our house whenever we make tacos and whenever we have access to good, fresh, ripe avocados, which doesn't happen often enough anyway. but he contributes by making guacamole, and it's absolutely delicious. So I'm sure that my guacamole will not be as good as his, but I'm going to try my best to make his guacamole. And then finally, the huevos con chorizo. The first time I ever ate this was actually in a campground over an open fire, and I watched a woman prepare it over an open fire, and it was an absolutely amazing experience. It was something that, again, stuck with me. It stuck in my mind. It's part of a treasured memory, and it was delicious. The first time I had it, I loved it right away. And of course, as soon as I got home, I wanted to try my hand at it and make it myself. So fortunately, I had watched really closely, and I had a pretty good idea of what I needed to do in order to make it good. And every time, I think it gets a little bit better. I hope that my family enjoys it as much as I do, because I definitely love making it for them and love making it for myself. So I'm going to be preparing that today. And also, as you are watching this video, which again has no recipe in the description, but hopefully you learn how to prepare it just by watching it. Feel free to watch it more than one time. That's fine. Like it if you actually enjoy watching it. Feel free to subscribe for more videos. And also today, to celebrate the life of my cousin Amos Moore, who retired to Jalapa, Mexico, in Veracruz, Mexico, many years ago, and whom I got a chance to visit while he was living in Mexico. He gifted me something more than I think he really knew what he was giving me. He gifted me the gift of travel, the gift of culture. It was a graduation present when I finished graduate school. He welcomed me into his home and into his extended family that he had met, an extended family of friends and people who had welcomed him to Mexico when he retired there. And it was just a really priceless experience. Unfortunately, Amos was not a very good cook, so I didn't learn any recipes from him. But I learned much more about life and living, and he had learned a lot in his 80 years of life, and he did a lot in 80 plus years of life. And at the time when I visited with him, he was in about his 81st year of life, I believe, and was doing very well. I mean, all things considered, for a man his age, he was up and about and very active, and we just truly enjoyed each other's company. We had a really good time the week that I was there visiting with him, and I enjoyed it. And like I said, he gave me more than just that gift of paying for me to visit with him. It wasn't just a ticket. It wasn't just a flight to Mexico. It was so much more than that. It is a treasured memory. And so I'm going to be reading to you today from his obituary so that I can hopefully convey some of the accomplishments that he achieved in his lifetime and why he applauded my accomplishments of graduating, finishing school, finishing both my bachelor's and my master's degrees, and why he wanted to celebrate me. And hopefully you get to understand why I am celebrating him and his life today. Amos Moore was born on July 7th, 1929, in a sharecropper's cabin on a cotton plantation in the Mississippi Delta. Amos was the sixth child, fifth son of Jenny Thomas Lyons, whose mother was a Townsend. He was the third child and only son of Frederick Douglass Moore of the Nero Moore family. He spent his childhood in a single-parent home with a loving, extended family of grandparents, great-aunts and uncles, aunts, uncles, cousins, and even neighbors. The family moved to Chicago, where Amos completed grammar and high school. Religious training began at home, and he was baptized at his mother's Church of God in Christ. Later, he became devoted to Christian ecumenism. He served on boards and committees of United Methodist, Unitarian Universalist, and Mexican Methodist churches. He was an associate member of St. Mark's United Methodist Church, an active member since 1980. He joined Holy Ghost Mexican Methodist Church in Jalapa, Veracruz, Mexico in 2000. His interdenominational studies included West African religions, Hinduism, and Islam. Amos earned a Bachelor of Science degree at the University of Illinois. His first publication, his bachelor's thesis, was called Panty Raid, A Study in Social Control. It was published by the Association of University Security Personnel Administrators. He was later appointed professor at its Jane Addams Graduate School of Social Work. He earned a Master of Arts degree at the University of Chicago and became a guest lecturer at its School of Social Service Administration. At Loyola University, he was a fieldwork instructor in psychiatric social work for the School of Social Work. Amos was appointed to the Illinois Pardons and Parole Board. He was the director of Street Gang Service of Chicago Youth Centers. He was the subject of a story, How to Stop Teenage Gang Wars. In 1972, Amos, with Professor Harvey Trieger, edited Criminogenic Elements in the Ghetto, published by the Illinois Academy of Criminology. He developed the first successful group offender rehabilitation program as a probation and parole officer for the Federal Court of Chicago. Amos was a psychiatric social worker for Illinois and Veterans Administration mental hospitals. He did foster care and adoptions work at Child and Family Care Services Chicago Home for the Friendless. He was a lead researcher in the development study of youth in the Illinois criminal justice system. He did independent postgraduate studies at the University of Chicago's Oriental Institute in Lawndale, Hong Kong, Marrakesh and Fez, Morocco, Tikal, Guatemala, Cartagena, Colombia, Stand Creek, Belize, and Veracruz. Amos was a life member of the NAACP, Operation Push, the Urban League, the Southside YMCA, the Southern Leadership Council, and the Southern Poverty Law Center. Amos was founding treasurer of the South Central Center for Emotionally Disturbed Children and treasurer of the Chatham Mental Health Center. He was a member of the American Correctional Association, the Illinois Academy of Criminology, the American Association of University Professors, the Association of Paroling Authorities, the National Association of Social Workers, and the National Association of Black Social Workers, where he was vice president of the Illinois chapter. Amos loved family and friends and maintained close relationships throughout his life. Although married and divorced with no children, he enjoyed having many nieces and nephews, both by blood and love. He opened his home to needy college students and mentored young adults from Ghana, Louisiana, and Hatapan in Veracruz, Mexico. He was especially grateful for a large, loving family. The Townsends, Hodges, Johnsons, Killams, Kincaids, Neros, and Moores. When I visited Amos at his home in Jalapa in 2010, he showed me so much more than just his home and Veracruz. He talked to me and taught me about the African influence in Mexico. We visited the Anthropology Museum in Veracruz, where we saw the remnants of ancient African societies that had touched the Mexican people, the Olmec heads, the archaeology. We visited the ancient ruins and saw the ancient architecture and did a lot of the little traditional touristy things that one might do when visiting Mexico. But we also did so much more. I could not have been there at a more perfect time because it was the bicentennial celebrating the freedom of Mexico from Spanish rule. And in that celebration, I saw my cousin be a part of a society that welcomed him. One day, shortly after I arrived, Amos, being a dutiful transplant in his adopted country, walked up to his rooftop to put a Mexican flag atop his roof. As he was putting the finishing touches on it and straightening the flag, a neighbor happened to walk by and shouted up to him, "Viva Mexico!" Now, of course, that was my terrible accent, and his neighbor sounded much more authentic, but Amos, being so ingrained in the place that he loved, shouted back without a second thought, "Mexico viva!" It was a really great representation of the fact that you can feel at home just about anywhere in the world. He taught me that. And I have felt at home just about everywhere we've ever been. I take him with me when we travel. He's in my heart. And the experiences that I've had abroad are, I think, a direct reflection of his fearlessness and his teachings to me, making me as fearless as I am. Who knows? Maybe it's just our natural fearless blood. In a now rather infamous statement to a friend of his while I was visiting with him in Mexico, he said, "Well, Marvin, we don't have any ugly people in our family." I don't know how true it is that we don't have any ugly people in our family, but what is true is that we have some very hardworking, dedicated people in our family, some very well-educated people in our family, and lots of people who contributed in many ways to Black history. Thank you for watching, and ciao for now.